earth? Oh, my mic was off. Folks, let me do that again. Welcome to Open Source Tonight. I got a special guest that you didn't hear me introduce. Everyone, Joe Collins.
You're goofing off and nobody can hear anything you were saying?
Yeah, I had the audio muted, so.
Lovely. Beautiful.
I know, right, isn't it?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a real show. We are only testing out some equipment.
That's right. That's right. This is a test. Do not adjust your sets. If you actually are watching this on a TV, if you're not watching it on a TV, don't adjust your smartphone, your laptop. Don't throw it out the window and smash it into the neighbor's yard and break it. You know, don't do that.
Hopefully it's not a high-resolution TV. Nobody wants to see that.
Oh, that's... I mean... Yeah, obviously.
I'm on the wrong side. I mean, I don't know whether the preview that I'm seeing is not what they're seeing, right?
It's flipped, yeah.
Yeah, it's flipped. You see, I'm supposed to be looking at you. I don't think that's working that way. Okay, never mind. Don't worry about it.
Computers.
I'll figure it out in the video. I was just saying, because to me it looks like we're looking in opposite directions, you know?
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Yeah, so maybe if I look right at the camera.
No idea what we're doing. None. Zero. Zip.
Yeah. Ideas? We don't have them.
Yet?
Let's see. I don't know.
Anybody watching yet?
I don't know. Let's find out. Let's find out. I'm trying to switch the show and look at the chat, so let's look. We do not have any viewers yet. All right. We got a big audience, Joe. We better keep them entertained. We don't want them to leave.
Well, you see, that's good, because when this actually posts, you can go and cut out that part where you messed up front.
There you go. But yeah,
you can do that on the YouTube. You have the YouTube video editor. It'll work just fine.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. No, I like to just leave the mistakes in, like me accidentally switching to your camera when I was talking. So I like to just leave the mistakes in. You know, you get to watch the show be made, and then when I make a big mistake, like, oh no, I faded to black, then I can just undo it and be like, never mind. It's live.
That was an improvement.
That was an improvement. All right.
Okay, so the whole point of this is we're testing out some equipment, because the idea is that we will be doing Open Source Tonight together. Vince is too busy pushing buttons and trying to figure out stuff, so I will tell you that moving forward into the new year.
That's right, Joe. We're going to be doing Open Source Tonight, the hopefully best podcast that's ever been created, but I have a feeling we might want to not call it that, you know. But
well,
it's going to be something.
What you see so far is any indication, we've got a ways to go.
A ways, I think. A ways is, I think, putting it gently. I think that's it. But yeah, we'll see. You know, I haven't done the show in over a year at all, so you know, it's going to be rusty. But you all get to come along for the ride and see what happens when I press all the buttons in the wrong order and.
Right.
You know, who knows? Maybe I'll learn how to press them in the right order.
Questions we might answer.
Yeah, we might even answer the questions. That's right.
I'm not supposed to step on you, am I?
Oh, no, that's fine.
I'm just doing that all over the place, aren't I?
It's okay.
We talked about this before the show. I'm not supposed to step on him, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, so if we step on each other, the echo cancellation makes him sound a little worse at the end of a sentence. But it's all right.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, that's right. It's good enough.
They're not paying that close of attention.
Yeah, that's right. They got this on the TV in the background with everybody screaming over top of it and asking when's dinner anyway. So they're not paying attention.
Well, nobody's clicked on it anyway. See if anybody's actually watching yet.
Hold on a minute. Let me see here. Has anybody watched the show yet? Wow, I love our viewer count. It's still 0.
Hey! This is what happens when you just start broadcasting and you don't announce it.
That's right. That's what happens.
You just do it. Nobody knows you're there.
Yep. And, yeah, I mean, you know, credit where it's due. The show is live. But now I've done some live streams on here that's unplanned, and that's generally what happens. Is about 30 minutes after I start it, people start showing up. So we said we'd probably do this for 20 or 30 minutes.
It takes a while. It seriously just takes a while for people to show up. So anybody watching right now is watching recorded, and we're just waiting around for people to show up so we can poke fun at them. So, you know where that skip button is. You can go ahead.
There's a skip button on the YouTube player?
Yeah, you just go, you know.
Oh, you mean like the
arrow.
The progress
button. The right arrow, and it just jumps ahead until something actually happens.
Oh, you mean like the next video arrow. Okay.
No. We don't want to go on to the next video. Just skip ahead until something interesting happens in this video.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Don't go to the next
Do you
video.
ever watch YouTube?
All the time. All the time. I am a big fan of this YouTube.com. You know, I am.
You fang dangled thing?
Yeah, I think this internet thing is going to take off in about 10 years, and I'm going to be on the cutting edge of it. I tell you, you just wait, Joe. This is going to be like the ultimate computer network ever. We're going to be able to do our baking on it. We're going to be able to watch weird Netflix shows no one asked for, and the ones we did ask for. You just wait. It's going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely huge.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. So, by the way, ladies and germs, the computer that I'm using, you might find this interesting, is an ancient Dell Inspiron. I think it's I can't remember the number, 15 something. Anyway, it's from 2009. And I hooked a microphone up to it, and I hooked up a webcam, and it's working. Isn't that cool?
Wow, it's working. This is impressive.
Well, I mean, it's one of the things that I love about Linux is that, like in my house, I have an entire network full of junk, and if you take all the computers and put them in one place, they're probably worth, I don't know, $25.
$25. That's actually pretty good. You might want to go on eBay and list those and get some new ones.
Maybe. I don't know if I get real desperate.
There you go.
But that's, you want to talk about Linux things. That's part of one of the things I really like about Linux is that, what is it in 2024 or 2025? Everybody's going to have to switch to Windows 11 or it's just going to die. Don't worry. It'll run on Linux until the end of time.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite thing about Linux, really, probably out of anything is, and I made a video about this just today that I published talking about this, about macOS versus Linux. And I said, one of my favorite things about that, free plug, by the way, was the fact that Linux will run on anything. I mean, I literally listed all the architectures on the screen that Debian will run on right now. And I don't even know of any computer architecture that wasn't listed. Maybe there's something really obscure, but I don't know of them.
Well, you won't be running anything. You won't be running Linux on a 486. They took that out of the kernel.
I know they were talking about it. They actually did it?
As far as I know, they did it.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know.
But that's like down the road. I think all the current kernels support it. I don't remember the number because I came to class ill-prepared and didn't study. I don't remember exactly. I don't know exactly what kernel it is that that's going to happen in, but it's supposed to happen. And I got in a debate the other day about it, and I said, really, honestly, do you know anybody that runs a 486 to do anything real?
I mean, the only thing I could see that would be using a 486 would be like some kind of embedded system that's not even probably even connected to the internet anyway. And my argument is if it's not connected to the internet, why are we even concerned? Because it's not on the internet, right? Like that's like your main security concern is somebody's going to be able to get into it with like SSH or something running on it. But if it's not on the network, what's the problem? I would say, these systems probably ain't even been updated. That's 486 in a long time anyway, right? Like what is it like the saying about the computer in the closet that never gets updated or something?
Yeah, well, the only people that I know that actually have 486 computers are collectors. And collectors who get 486 computers, they don't want Linux on it anyway. They put, Windows 311 or Windows 95 on it and go, ooh, look at this. That's usually how it works.
Yeah.
Like watch LGR,
Yeah. I mean, I don't really
cool.
see
We got there's you and there's like color bars and what the heck? What did you do?
Yeah, on the switcher, it's called a super source. I figured I'd toss it in here when you least expected it. Here it is. You least expected it.
It worked. Pretty colors.
Pretty colors, everybody. There's Joe Collins.
Shiny. Shiny.
There you go.
Anyway. Anybody watching yet?
I don't know. Let's take a look. So I can't look continuously because right now I normally have my laptop over with me. And you're on my desktop, so I can't look at both until I minimize you. So I take you off the air, cut off away from you, and then I look. So that's what I'm doing. Still, current for viewers list is 0. We've been on the air almost 10 minutes. Woohoo! 10 whole minutes, everybody. Look at that, 10 minutes.
We have work to do, don't we?
Oh yeah, we've been spending a lot of time. No expenses was spared except for all of them on this program, and so it's gonna be an interesting show.
Don't worry, that's all right. Like I said, because people will go back and say, "What's this garbage?" later. Just title it something like "Testing 1, 2, 3." That's all you have to do.
Yeah. Well, I decided
they'll go back and look at it later and go, "What is this?"
Yeah, I
And they go,
decided
oh my
just
goodness.
yeah, I decided just to make it public so people could look because why not? But I actually called it. I think it was like testing live feed or testing program or something like that. So I think people will
Yeah,
get the
well,
idea.
we're just recording this just so we can look at it and see what it looks like.
Yeah, we thought that we'd bring you all behind the scenes, and because I love to break that fourth wall, the film people that watch me know. I want you to know that we're on a set, so it's I like to turn the camera
I'm not on
around
a
and
set.
point
I'm
it
on
at
the
the
couch
director.
in my living room. You can hear my cat playing with his toy.
There
Did you
you
hear
go.
that?
Yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah. We got an
This is
extra.
reality. This is reality TV, folks.
Oh no, it's not. Let's not do reality.
Who needs the
That's.
Kardashians?
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna even touch that line, but I don't like reality TV generally, so I don't know. I have a feeling people already know that. And Joe's pointing at the corner. What's that about?
You see yourself and you go, you want to play with it. It's like, wow, yay!
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh goodness.
Do you remember being a child? I
Oh.
guess most people remember this. Of course, you're still a child, so you remember it. But you would go into the department store somewhere, and they would have a video camera set up with a TV,
Yep.
and you would be like, walk up to that, and you would play with it. This is what you would do because you're like, oh, look, it's me on TV, and you'd look at the people walking by and stuff. And I used to stand there and do this stuff. My mother'd be screaming, "Come on, let's go! What's the matter with you?
Oh my god.
Time to go home. Leave that alone." And I'm sitting there going,
I've literally done that as a kid, so it's
well,
fun.
see, there you go.
You get
That
hours of
started my
entertainment. I put
That
myself up on
started
the
my
monitor.
fascination.
Yeah.
Radio and TV, right there. Hey mom, I'm on TV. How you doing?
That's right. Yeah, I've literally done that before. Where I'm like, I'll be like this. Hi everybody, look at me. I'm just dancing in my studio before I do a take of something for a video. This is what I'm doing before a take. Sometimes I do this before a take just to be random. Not every time. Just when I'm like in a really good mood.
It's TMI. You know that, right?
What, me dancing around like an idiot?
Exactly. Keep those clips to yourself. Nobody wants to see that.
Oh, maybe I should start a dancing YouTube channel.
So what is Open Source Tonight going to be about, Vince? Why don't you tell the one person who may have already joined this live stream what we're doing this for?
Wow, the whole one person. Well, I'm just going to speak to you directly, Bob. Nice to see you coming back for the show.
Nice to see you, Bob.
I'm being technology connections here and just addressing some random person that's probably watching this someday. But no, what we're going to be talking about is open source software. I know, what a concept. And things that are related to that. So we'd be talking about Linux, BSD, all kinds
You're
of
going to be
different
talking
stuff.
about BSD. I'm going to be talking about Linux.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm really not much of a BSD person, so we probably won't talk about BSD that much. We'll be like, BSD exists, thanks for watching the show, now here's Linux. So, I mean, it's Linux heavy.
You probably like VI, too.
Oh, gosh. How do I say this without getting in trouble with the audience?
Well, that's the whole point. We're trying to get in trouble.
Okay, well, then I guess I'll just go ahead and walk out on the ledge here and fall off. VI, I acknowledge people like it, okay? I can use it when I have absolutely no choice, even though on the live stream last week, shameless plug here, I couldn't figure out how to get it to close, even though I've done it 100 times.
Nobody can figure out how to get it to close. It's a key sequence.
Yeah, it's like, well, I did WQ, but then I had to put exclamation mark because I accidentally put a new line in the thing first. And
Yes.
yeah, so, and I forgot about the exclamation point because I knew you do like the escape, WQ. And if anybody doesn't understand this, congratulations, you haven't used VI.
Nope.
So, but I mean, I will say this. I seen a video a while back talking about VI and why people should learn it that are like running servers. And I think this is a valid point because a lot of them, they don't ship Nano or something like that. You have to install it.
And I put Nano on it.
Well, that's what I do. But like if you're on a server where you can't install stuff, maybe somebody else's. I know I do remote management of different client systems.
Well,
If
when
one of
that
the clients
happens,
said
what we
that-
do is what we do is we pick up a telephone and we say, "Put Nano on this, or I ain't working on it."
I've never had to make that call, but yeah, Nano's definitely like, I prefer Nano. I mean, it's just, again, I mean, if you want to use VI, my whole stance on open source for years has been, if you like it, use it. just don't make me use it. Like I get
Well, the
people
thing
like
about
it.
it is, if you really want to get down into it seriously for the minute, is just that when you install it, it's not what they say it is. It doesn't work the way they say it is. Like if you are sitting in front of an Ubuntu machine or even CentOS, you have to install Vim, which is VI improved.
Yep.
And then what you get is not what it says does in the book, or at least it never is for me. It never works exactly the way. It's like almost like somebody didn't tell you something.
Yeah, I mean,
So I've never gotten good at it.
I got you. I mean, I will say for me, I'm not an expert on VI. I can get in there and edit something, but realistically, I always I'm like Joe. I'm like I get Nano on a box, and I mean I haven't made that call to a client that I do maintenance for, saying if you don't let me put Nano on this box, I'm not going to work for you. But you know what? I may make that call one day because I mean Nano in my mind, at least for me, is light years. For me anyway, right? It's for my sensibilities. It's the better text editor, command line configuration editor, whatever you want to call it.
See, that's enough to start an argument right there. We if anybody sees this, we're going to hear it now.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be getting some angry emails.
I'm waiting for somebody to jump up and tell us why we should be using Emacs. Let's hear that one too.
There you go. I actually have thought about making an episode on Linux text editors, but I thought it might be too technical. But we're pretty much doing that now anyway.
You know what Emacs stands for?
Nope.
Emacs makes a computer slow.
I don't think that's really what it stands for.
It's one of those recursive acronyms that the GNU people like so well.
Oh yeah, like GNU's not Unix, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Joe, guess what? We got a whole 3 viewers that showed up for a second.
Hello, 3 people. Thank you for showing up. You have no idea what this is about, do you? Sorry.
Well, actually, they already left, so I think they probably figured out what it was about.
They came and they went. It's that bad, huh?
It's so bad. They're like, you know what? I've got better things to do, right? That's their thoughts, I guess.
Oh, wow. Really? That is so cool. That makes me happy. You drove them away. They didn't even leave a comment like, this sucks?
They didn't even say anything. The chat's blank. Nobody said anything.
Oh, this is... Maybe we ought not to do this. I mean, it just doesn't seem,
So when I do a scheduled live stream, I actually get an audience within like the first couple minutes. So the episodes we should definitely schedule them. It's pretty clear to me that the unattended...
I would assume realistically that we would. I mean, this was just like talking about VI and Nano, Does anybody really care?
The fact you just said that line, I guarantee you're going to get somebody that's going to be mad about that. Give it a day or two.
See, that's the whole point. Then I'll tell you what, the comments will be very interesting on this video once it goes up.
I mean, it's live already, so people.
So since this garbage seems to be working, do you have any idea about when we would actually attempt to do a real show? And would we have guests, or would it just be you and me pandering back and forth?
Well, so what I'm thinking, I have had guests on the show in the past. I'm not opposed to doing that again, but
I don't think pandering's the right word there. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
But yeah, I mean, like, I'm not really thinking like we don't need guests. I don't think for every episode. That was always a struggle to try to find a guest for every episode, right? So I think, if a guest wants to come on and we can find somebody, let's say. What I think makes sense for the show, we used to do is we do a main topic for every episode, and then we could kind of veer off into randomness after we talked about that. So I'm thinking, like, we have an expert in that topic area that says, hey, listen, I'm an expert in Git, let's say, and we're talking about Git. Well, okay, you want to come on the show and talk to us about Git? Because I know a little bit about it, but, if you want to teach me more and the audience more, that would be great. But, getting a guest every week might be...
It would be nice. It would be nice to talk to an expert about Git, because the only thing I know is what commands to follow when I need to do something with it, and that's beyond that I know nothing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I never have. People have asked me on my channel to do videos about Git, and I'm like, I'm not going to do a video about something I don't understand. I know a little. I mean, I can get it to work, but literally I have a cheat sheet. It's like, oh, how do I update this repo? Oh, okay, this is how I do it. I have to do that every time. I don't know Git by ear, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, you got to Google it, don't you? And I mean, I do that
No,
too.
I
So
kept it. No, I'm very smart. See, I keep notes on things like this. So if I go, oh, if I have to interact with Git, then I go get my notes, and then I can see my commands. I know what I'm going to do. Uh, you know, I am a cut and paste programmer. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I just put it in there, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
I got you.
And so that's pretty much how it works with Git as well. It's like, besides, I probably these days work with Git about once every 6 months.
Once every 6 months. Yeah, I mean, my day job, I have to use Git pretty much 5 days a week. So
You have a day job?
yeah, being a software
Somebody
developer.
hired you.
Well, technically, I work
Wow.
for my own company, and then people hire the company for work.
Oh,
So
so you hired yourself. You're the only person that would give you a job.
I mean, I've said before that I'm probably the only person that would put up with me. So that's
See, there
pretty.
you go. What's the old joke is, I would not join a club that would have me for a member.
There you go. But yeah, no, I will admit I'm not necessarily the best employee. I'm easily distracted. I can sit there and oh, an email comes in about something, and I go spend 30 minutes looking at whatever the email was talking about, and then I, come back and I'm like, oh, I was supposed to be coding when I did that. We'll go back to the code now, I guess.
Yes, I can see that. Squirrel!
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's very much. I mean, I'm very much an ADHD person. I'm like, well, what's over there? I've tried to in my videos. You all may have noticed if you've watched for a while. I try to look at the camera, but any little noise in the room or anything, I'm like, what's that over there? And I just can't help but look away. Or let's look at my production monitor over there to the side and see if I'm in focus. It's like I'm very
You're probably
like.
wondering what I'm looking at. See, I'm looking at him. I see him right there. So the camera's over here. I'm not looking at the red dot. I'm looking down here the whole time. So I apologize, viewer, if there's actually one there.
Yeah, and for the
I
record,
should be looking this way, but I'm looking at Vince because it's hilarious.
Thank you. I'm hilarious. That's great. I aim to be funny, so I'm doing a good job. But, for me, I usually am looking a little bit this way when I'm talking to Joe as well, for those that are wondering. Because I got a production monitor right here that lets me see what Joe's up to, and also what the switcher's up to in general, so I can see if we're on the air.
I don't care. See if anybody is actually looking at the live stream one more time here.
Let's take a look here, folks. All right. I started to sing a song there, but that would have been bad because then everyone would have left. Let's see. Oh, we got a viewer. We got a viewer. There's somebody watching. Oh, we got someone.
Viewer.
We got a viewer. We got a viewer.
What is this viewer's name?
They didn't put anything in the chat, so I don't know. They probably are regretting clicking on it, though.
Probably going, I'm out of here now, man.
See you all later, everybody. That's what they're going to do. There's a radio show I listen to from Ohio sometimes, and they have a thing at the very end where it's like a joke jingle. It's not a PG joke, so I'm not going to say it because I try to keep this channel family friendly, but it's hilarious. But basically the end of it is, I'm going home, And I'm like, I can't believe that the station lets them play that. They've been doing that for like 10 years. I'm like, I guess it's the FCC, I guess, is cool with it, and the station's okay with it, but I just find it funny.
Percy, I'm sorry. I can't get up and let you out of the door. I'm live on YouTube, and there's one person watching.
One person, everybody. One. This is our record. This is our record viewer count, everybody. So I'd like to thank the one viewer for showing up.
I mean, like I said, we didn't announce this as being a show anyway, so.
Yeah. No, actually, this is bad for live streams for me. I did a live stream last week, and when it was live, I got 69 views on it, and then it's like to 100-something now after the recording went up. So that was announced, though. So, announcements, it's almost like they help. I did one live stream a couple weeks ago, and it was 172 viewers while it was live. I'm like...
Like they help, man! It's like they help!
Yeah. The craziest video on the channel has got to be this one right now. I'm convinced. As far as like starting the show, though, I mean, I'm ready to start the show whenever you're ready to start the show. We can do one this week. We could do one next week. We could do one in January. We could do one in December.
What night do you usually record these things?
Well, so I was thinking for the show when we were discussing this that we would do it on Fridays at 8 o'clock because when I do a live stream on that. Okay.
I seriously cannot let you out right now. Lay down. Sorry.
Oh,
Please
you're
continue.
good. You're good. The bloopers of the cat, I think people appreciate anyway. I love the bloopers of
I
any
have more
show.
than one cat. I have several cats in here at this point, so it's.
Oh, we might
Here.
get multiple bloopers at the same time then with different cats.
Let me show you a cat. This is a cat, ladies and gentlemen.
I bet
This
they
is
know
Rue.
that.
This is Miss Rue. She doesn't want to be up here. Let me put her down. She's gone.
Wow. This is a
And then there's
cat.
another one. There's Percy, and then there's Maurice, and they're all running away now because they don't know what's going on.
I mean, to be fair, do we even know what's going on at this point, Joe? So it's
No, we have lost completely. But if we put the cats in there, it'll get more views.
I mean, to be
Because
fair,
people love to look at cats on the internet. So, if you don't chase the cat. I don't want him. Go away. So this is how this is going to... You do realize that if we actually do the show, this is exactly how this is going to go.
I may have to figure out a way to stop laughing so hard so we can actually talk about the technology. But I think other than that, we might be able to make it work.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about anything real tonight. I mean, it's not like we have a topic or anything. What's that? We're just messing around anyway. So,
Yeah,
did one person leave? I bet you they did.
let's see. They probably did. They're like, what was that? Let's see. Nope, they're still here. All right, we have one viewer. They still haven't said anything in the chat, though. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to watch this train wreck. I don't need to be
It's a
in the
robot. It's not really a person.
Maybe it's a robot, Joe says. There you go.
It's a bot picking up the feed for some reason, going to do something with it somewhere else.
Yep.
Not really a human being. It's either a human being or YouTube has decided to say that there's somebody looking just so we won't be so crestfallen.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? We feel bad for these guys on the air. We just need to give them a viewer that's not real so they can feel a little bit less bad about their...
Because I'd love it if somebody would ask a question right now and then we could, play with questions.
Yeah, I think questions would be wonderful. But yeah,
Questions would be wonderful.
yeah, but I mean, as far as, the show, I'm thinking, Fridays at 8 o'clock Eastern to about 9 something would be... I think that would be good, because when I do a live stream on that...
That I can do.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, I think when I...
We
that
could
would
do
be...
that. We could do that. And then, I'll leave it up to you. It's like I told you when we were talking about doing this from the beginning. I do not want to be creative at all. So you may suggest your topic, whatever
Okay.
you want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, one I've been thinking about for the first episode, and I think it would be interesting, is to talk about
Nano
Bash.
versus Vive.
I was going to say Bash, but,
Bash? Oh.
yeah.
But that's not controversial.
I don't want
We
to
need
be
to come out
controversial.
swinging, man.
I don't want to be controversial. I just want to be like the cool Linux channel that educates people and makes them entertained for an hour every week.
Oh no, we need clickbait.
We need... But see, that's the thing.
We need people to talk about us. We need people to talk about us in the forum and on Discord and in Reddit and all that stuff, and talk about how these guys don't know what they're talking about, and you really need to go check it out so you can tell them what idiots they are.
I mean, to be fair, we get the views whether they like us or not. So yes, I guess that's when we look at it.
Exactly. See, it doesn't really matter whether we know what we're talking about or
I try to
actually
know what I'm talking
anything about Linux.
Yeah, I try
There
to.
are several. Hey, there are several people on YouTube who are making it work, and they don't know nothing about Linux, and it's pretty obvious when they start talking.
I mean, I don't know if I would go that far, but I mean, there's some people that maybe are novices, but we all start somewhere. I mean, when I first started using Linux years ago, I barely even knew how to shut the system down. That's not even a joke. I remember I actually had to ask my friend that was helping me, how do you shut it down? I had a server I was playing with, and I'm like, what do I type to shut it down? It's a command line. And they're like, oh, you just type sudo space halt. Oh, okay.
Sudo power off.
Well, that works too, doesn't it?
Or sudo shutdown -h and then put in a time, and it'll do it when you want it to.
Yep.
There are several options.
Yeah, it's Linux. There's almost always 2 or 3 ways to do most things in Linux.
I remember years ago on Windows having to actually download a program that had a timer in it that would shut the computer down.
Wow.
Because there was no physical way to do it within Windows. At least none that I could find. And somebody had written some little stub of a program that you put on the screen, and it was a little timer. You would give it a time and say, or shut down in 90 minutes or whatever, or give it a time, and it would turn the computer off. In Linux, that's all built in. You do that from the command line, and you're done.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the power off command, I know I've used that before when I'm going to walk away from a system and I'm going to let it finish something that's going to take 20 minutes or something. I'll just be like, give me 30 minutes and then shut yourself off because I don't want you running.
I use it all the time at night when stuff is processing, excuse me, and that sort of thing, and I don't want the system up and running all the time. So I'll just tell it to cut off. Or if it's playing audio or something like that, playing a stream, just
Yeah.
cut it off. I'll fall asleep.
You
Don't
know,
want to sit there running all night.
that would actually be a pretty good use case for me because I like to fall asleep to something playing, and if I wanted it to stop after an hour, I've never used it for that, but I could, right? Just
Well,
tell
I
it
mean, if
shut
you
it
want to
down.
talk about Bash, what do you want to talk about Bash? I mean, Bash is boring. It's only, it's the command line, and it's a interpretive language, and it's a programming language, and how boring is that?
Well, that was one thing I thought about talking about was like
You can
programming
write
languages.
programs in Bash, and you can sit there and amaze your friends about how the computer just seems to be doing things on its own with nothing on the screen. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to do that? No, I mean, one idea that I've had for the channel for a while, and I mean, it's a bigger undertaking. We wouldn't probably do an episode on this, like a podcast episode, but just like a YouTube video kind of thing. But what I thought would be really interesting was to do a video where where I have developed things for Linux, let's build like the most simple app ever, like a calculator, something that I can build in like 20 minutes. And then I'll show you how to package it in the dev package, and then install it on another computer and show you how it opens, and you know what I
See,
mean? Just give them A to
that would
Z.
be interesting for people. Because I think a lot of people, if I can figure out how to write Bash, you can.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, for years and years, I worked with automation systems, and I was used to one command after another, and not really understanding the programming way of doing things, and like if statements and loops and stuff like that. And so, if I can learn how to do it, anybody can. And
Yeah.
once you get there, you can always use that as a stepping stone to other languages. Like Bash has a lot to do. It has a lot in common with C. So if you wanted to program in C, you could learn how to do that, or you could learn how to use Python, or whatever the language of the week is these days.
Yeah, I mean, the language of the week always changes. I've heard smarter people than me say, and I think they're right, that you pick the language based on what you need to do and what libraries it has to do that and such. And, it's going to depend, right? You shouldn't just pick it just
Right.
because you pick it. But for me, I find a lot of the stuff I do, Python is a really good language for it because I need to build it quick. It needs to work good, and it needs to be cross-platform most of the time. And it's like, well, that
Yeah, I don't know
covers it.
anything about Python, so you could teach me.
There you go. Maybe that's an episode. Teaching Joe Python 3.
Oh.
That could be fun.
Well, I don't know. Well, that's about 2 years worth of content of me going, I don't get it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then
This is hard.
yeah, and then at the end you rebuild Google in Python 3, and
Here, I'll tell you what. No, what would be real fun is to get somebody on here to teach us all how to program in awk.
Oh no! Oh, okay. I have to comment on that. Awk is it's okay. I'm gonna make a pun here. Awk is not awesome. Okay, it's not. I'm sorry. Like I get it's powerful, but you know how I use it? I copy and paste how to do it from a Google search that goes to Stack
There's
Overflow.
like one command in awk that you use to. It's when you're gathering information into a buffer or a file, and awk will print it. And it's that one command you see all the time in bash scripts. And it's like, for the longest time, me being ignorant, I didn't realize that called an entire language. And then I went off and read about that and went, oh, interesting. So we're calling one command out of a language that could do other things, That's amazing to me.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, you could do that with Python too. You can call it where it's interpreted from the interpreter and give it like one command, let it run it, and then it exits. So I don't really use it for that generally very often, but it is possible. What I like to do with Python is, and this is controversial because a lot of people hate doing this. I like to build desktop GUIs. Why does?
They're all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about people. Like they hate that, and I don't know. Like I don't know. I guess I'm a visual person, and I like command line, but it's like if I want something, sometimes I just want to have a little GUI app that I can just, you know what I mean? Like just open up and click a few buttons and do it.
Do you know what I always want to learn how to do, and I never have? I'm not quite there yet, and I'm probably never going to get there. Is you've seen those terminal programs like HTOP and I don't know, Midnight Commander? Have you seen that? And they have all the colors and their mouse. They're all in curses, and they work with mice, and you can have all kinds of crazy displays and VU meters and stuff. I would love to learn how to do that. And it all runs under Bash. It's not like just having that graphic display on the screen. I stuck my toe in that water at one point, and I went, "Oh my God, this is complicated." And so, I mean, it's like for most people who write scripts, they wouldn't have to do it, but actual terminal-based programs that have a layout that's graphically clickable with a mouse, that to me is very cool.
Yeah, and, I will say this. There's actually a Python library I played with for a while back that can do all that, and it simplifies it for you. And I've played around with it, but even that, I'm like, I don't know. To me, some of my programmer friends disagree with me on this, but I would rather have a GUI app that's all the way GUI than this like half terminal GUI kind of weird kind of in the middle thing. For most of like HTOP, I really love, but like for every HTOP, there's a Firefox, right? Where I want like a full GTK, native application or Qt or something. So, it's going to depend on, like anything really in computers, it's going to depend on your application, right? One thing that I think comes to mind is SSH, right? Because you can have...
The beautiful thing about HTOP is it'll run on the crappiest server.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's like you have like I have, servers that have no graphics whatsoever, and the only way you communicate with them is through SSH. And to be able to run something powerful like that and see what's going on and dig down and use some of the features in that, to me, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing that makes sense for CLI, and one of the reasons I love it the most, is SSH, because I SSH into everything, right? I've got every computer on here that can have SSH, it's on right now on my network, because
every computer on the network, every computer on my network is SSH, and then I use, sometimes I use SSHFS, but I love SFTP, which is an ancient tool. It's FTP, but it's over SSH. Have you ever played with that?
I have, actually. I've even had to use that to upload SFTP files to remote servers and stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's great. You can move files and directories back and forth through the network, and it gives you all kinds of... This is ancient, and I love it. I love using these little ancient tools to do this stuff.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I like about it. That's really good is... until recently had really bad internet, and if I needed to say upload a file to a client, I would go and set up a Linux server in a data center, right, like DigitalOcean or something, and then I would SFTP it up there, because guess what? Unlike Google Drive and stuff, it will restart the upload where it left off if it breaks for a second, and I love that because
SFTP figures this out. It's going to figure the file. It's going to do, and there's a lot of stuff won't do that. wget won't do it unless you tell it. rsync won't do it. rsync loses it and it times out, and that's it. It's done. But SFTP, on the other hand, because it's based on FTP protocol back in the days when people were sending stuff over phone lines anyway, it is absolutely rock solid, and it will reconnect. No problems. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I will say, as far as I'm concerned, SFTP is really handy to have. I built some programs before. You can do this in Linux. We're getting really techie now, but this chat, probably no one's watching anyway. But there's a thing in Linux, the Linux kernel, called iNotify. This is the best API ever. I love this thing. There's a Python wrapper for it, and I've got several programs that monitor a watch folder. I can SFTP a file into there or drop it in on the desktop, and it will do something. So like a video file, if I want it transcoded, I have a program that can just watch for that folder and say, uh-oh, you want me to take care of it?
It's polling for stuff all the time. Yeah, now we're getting over people's heads.
So
this is going to be fun.
But basically in English, for everybody that didn't figure that out, iNotify is just this way a programmer can have the Linux kernel basically tell the programmer that, we've got something that is in a folder that's new, right? It's basically just knocking on a door and saying, Vincent, we have a new file for you! Mail call!
Pretty much. Yeah, you can build a lot around that, and like I do, I've concentrated mainly on doing backup programs and things like that, so I'm real familiar with rsync. You can put that together with rsync, and you can put a script where that triggers a script, so if the file shows up, you can take it and feed it off to wherever you need it to go. Yeah, you can do a lot with that.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, there's a bunch of interesting things you can do with it, for sure. One thing I've been working on, I have got a back end for the streaming service I've been working on that me and Joe's talked about, and I've kind of barely touched on it on OST. But one of the things that I've been building is a Python backend, so you can go in if you're an approved partner and push in content for release, right? And you can schedule it and all that kind of stuff. Well, the video files, the way modern video works, it gets in these little segments, these tiny little files, one after another after another. Can you imagine having to manually upload those one at a time to the CDN? Yeah, I could have done that, but no. So I have a program that if I notify that they all drop into /temp and then a specific folder name for that type of file, right? And then it will say, oh, okay, I got a new file, upload it to the CDN at the right place. I don't even have to do anything, right? And then it deletes the file after it's done uploading it because it was temporary. We just needed it on the drive long enough to copy it up to the CDN.
Yep. Oh yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. Because we think the same way. That's the kind of stuff that I like. And like I said, I haven't done a whole lot of programming in a long, long time because I programmed. Basically, what I did was I built tools that I needed, showed everybody how I built it, and then that was it. Because then I had what I needed, and I couldn't think of anything else to program.
Yeah, I mean
so it's like, never mind. I don't know what else to write, so that's as far as I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Hope you all enjoy the tools.
Yeah. You know, the way that it started for me with programming is I found an open source program that I wanted to tinker with, and it didn't do what I wanted, but it almost did what I wanted. It was like 90% there, and I'm like, I'm not a programmer, but, you know, you're young and dumb and you're naive, and you think, well, this can't be that hard. Let's just open the source code up and just add stuff to it. Well, I actually got it to work after about 6 or 7 hours of playing with it, and then I'm like, whoa! Like, I'd never thought I'd be a programmer until I did that, and then I'm like, wait, I actually kind of like doing that.
I had an experience like that several years ago, hacking raw HTML. And just trying to figure out how to get a website to render properly. And I went, wait a minute, I figured that out, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Maybe I have some talent for this after all.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I could figure this out.
Yeah.
Anybody watching?
Let me look. I will say this, though. The web stack, I love the web stack. I mean, you know, some people complain about it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I've kind of gotten good at using it. And we do actually have a comment, everybody. We got a comment. Let me see who it is. It says,
what did they say?
It says hello. And we have a
Hi
like.
there.
We have 2 viewers and a like, and they just said yes. So there we go.
No.
No. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the chat. We've been doing it for about 40 minutes now. I'm going to put the chat over you.
Are you serious?
We've been doing this for 40 minutes, yeah.
If we've been doing this for 40 minutes, then what we're going to have to do, if we're actually going to do real shows, is we're actually going to have to write some sort of
an outline.
Timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if not, we're going to sit here and wander around, and we're going to wonder why nobody wants to sit and listen to us yammer on for 3 hours.
Yep. And now you got the chat on you at the corner there. So this is how indie this broadcast is, folks. I didn't have a separate computer hooked up to the switcher to pull that chat up on for you, so I just did it that way. But
what chat? I don't see any chat.
If you look at the feed I'm returning to you, you can see it on the side of you. It's just a window of Firefox.
Side of me? Where? Oh, it's okay. It's there. I can't see it, but I can see that it's there. But if I wanted to read that, all you would see would be my forehead.
Yep.
Because boy, that's teeny.
Yep, yeah, we talked about this before we went on the air, saying he wouldn't be able to see the chat.
Can you break that out onto? I wonder if you could break that out onto another desktop.
You can. It's just a separate Firefox window, so you can even full screen it. I do that sometimes when I've got it on the air and I'm going to be chatting with people for a while.
Okay, put that back up. Let me see if I can do it. You don't mind if we're experimenting while people watch, do you?
No, I think that's great. You know, again, it's like getting people behind the curtain, but. You know.
Okay, so I have full screened the preview. I see myself.
Yep.
Okay, I see what's going on here. So I should be able to take this and drag it over here. It's not letting me.
Oh, you mean the video? Okay, this is my fault for misunderstanding. I thought you meant the actual YouTube chat, because I'm like, yeah, you can pop that out. You meant the chat system we're using. There is a way for me to pop you into a new window on it.
Hold on, I've lost you altogether. You don't exist. What happened to you?
Uh-oh.
Hold on.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There you are. Okay. All right. Now I see where I'm at. Okay.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. I didn't know if it broke. But yeah.
No. I lost you because I put this over. I put put what we're doing. Viewers, don't worry. This is why we're doing this crap. I put you the preview over on another desktop. And then I switched back to the other desktop, and there wasn't anything there. I was like, I can hear him. Where is it?
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
So, but no, it's all right now. It's perfectly all right. You'll just have to read the chat is all, because I can't do it.
That's
or
fine.
I'll have to get a tablet.
That's fine. I mean, you could do it either way. But yeah, I'm
No,
thinking.
you can read the chat. I'd rather you read. I hate people anyway. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Oh, well, maybe don't say that.
Filter it from you filter it through to me, clean it up, and then I'll answer the question.
Okay, you're not a
That
people
way I don't
person.
have to interact directly with anybody.
Okay, you're not
like
a people
that.
person. I got you. I thought he was serious for a minute, but no, I mean,
He's so gullible.
my father used to say the same thing, and I actually was beginning to think I wasn't gullible anymore. But I think Joe, you've still got it. You can make me think that I figured it out. Anyway, but
He's so gullible, folks. This is gonna be fun.
but fun for you. For me, I might be like, oh goodness, this is. I mean,
People are gonna tune in just to see how I can torture you every week.
well, I mean, you know, you talk about clickbait. That's the clickbait. You can come in and tune in every week, and Joe will make
Whatever
me
it takes, man.
whatever.
If they tune in to laugh, at us, we can slip some Linux under the radar on them.
Yeah,
Cool.
Do what those kids shows did when I was a kid, where they say a funny joke to get you to watch the show, and then when they think you're not paying attention, they teach you how to do your math lesson too. That's what it is.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, not that we're going to teach you how to do math.
For Linux heads.
That's right. That's right. Welcome to Vincent the Linux Explorer. You know, that's trademark pending
Welcome,
at the
welcome to Blues Clues for Linux heads.
Blues Clues.
Which one's blue?
Heck, we're both wearing blue shirts. It's probably both of us. It's.
Hey, I ain't wearing a blue shirt, aren't I?
Yeah, you are. See?
There you go.
Yeah, it's blue. See?
Abbey Road. It's a very nice pub in Virginia Beach. Go there.
Oh, okay. I got you. Oh, goodness. Whew. Hello, all. Trevor
Now
Warren
that I've
says.
given them a shameless plug. When you want to wrap this thing up, you said there's like 2 people there.
There's 3 now. Trevor's actually a friend of
If
mine that's
any one of
joined
these
us.
3 people wants to ask a question.
Would any of the 3 people like to ask a question? There, I'll ask that question if they want to ask a question. While we're waiting on questions, but I will just say, Joe, that for me, when it comes to the programming with Python and Linux and the iNotify, it's really pretty easy. I think you're gonna. I think that if we could get you on it, I think you'd be up your alley, because I could totally see you like going crazy with iNotify. You'll be like, I have 100 Python programs, Vince, just like I have 100 computers running Linux. It's like chips. You can't just have one. Remember that video? I remember that video. I love that line.
I don't know. I have to have a reason, though. I've got to have a reason to write a program. It's what I ran into. It was just like I ran out of reasons, and I was like, I just stopped, because I was like, oh, I've got all the tools I need. Now what? You know. But that's the beautiful part, is that it takes just a tiny bit of knowledge to be able to get things done that you need to get done. And you can stop like that if you want to. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to become, want to, rewrite the
Linux kernel.
The Linux kernel. Well, if you wanted to, go right ahead. It's open source. You can change it. You can have your own kernel if you like.
Very true.
It's like people often ask, I've heard people say this, they're going to take Linux away from us. Microsoft is going to buy Canonical, and then there will be no more Ubuntu. We will have no more Linux. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Nobody can take nothing from you. It's all open source. You go grab it, and then you do what you want with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you wanted to, you could make your version of Ubuntu today.
Exactly.
And even if Canonical, even if Canonical was bought by Microsoft, right? Doesn't matter. They can't retroactively pull that source code and say it's not open.
You can fork it.
That's
fork things, boys and girls.
Yep.
It's like if you don't like what the project is doing, grab it, change it, make it yours, give it another name, and fork it. Some forks are very successful, like LibreOffice. Some forks go nowhere. Like whatever they renamed GIMP.
What was that? Glimpse, I think is what it was called, wasn't it?
Something like that. I was like, because some snowflake somewhere said that GIMP was you were deprecating people who had, some kind of condition, like they're crippled or whatever. It's like, come on. Do you really think anybody who uses that software is thinking that way? No, just you.
Yeah,
so that didn't go anywhere. I was just like, okay, never mind.
I mean,
you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I wouldn't really use the snowflake word personally, but I will say at the same time, like, I don't think anybody was looking at GIMP and saying, oh, you're talking about crippled people. Exactly. I didn't even know that word even meant that, right? And so I'm thinking, how many
heard
don't?
Somebody says, people will tell you, I'm gimping along today. I hurt my ankle.
Yeah. Well, see,
You know?
I haven't heard
So
of it
all
until
of a sudden
then.
now this is a bad word. Could you please tell me? We don't need to go off into this. This will
Yeah.
get me started, and then that'll be bad. See if
Yeah.
any of these three people want to ask a question.
Yeah, let's see. Well, one of them did point out there's 4 people in the show now. So 4 people have heard what you
Wow!
have to say. What's
Hello,
the
number 4. Thank you for joining.
Oh, we have a question. What is the topic of
Okay,
today's show? That's what the question is, everybody. What is the
This
question
isn't
of
a
today's
real
show?
show. We're just testing some equipment.
That's right. Yeah, this is
We're just seeing if this works.
This-
Literally, there's no topic. We just turned it on and went live because we're going to start doing this on a weekly basis from now on.
yeah. So this is pretty much just testing and production. Oh wait, I just remembered. Look what I have on my shirt. I don't always test my code, but when I do it in production. For the record, clients, I don't always test the code in production, but you know, it's a funny joke.
Hey, that's the best way to do it. Sink or swim. Just jump off the top, jump off. But if you have any Linux-related questions before we shut this down, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, exactly. I will just touch for a minute on like how easy it is to program stuff. So a while back, I wanted a program to take my ProRes files from my cinema camera and make them into really small compressed files to have a backup of, like for archive. And I wrote a little FFmpeg script. It's literally 3 lines. It's 3 lines, and the first line is, the shebang that says, this is the bash script, please use bash for it. The second line is blank because I wanted to clear space because it drives me nuts when people don't do that. Do whatever you want, but that's what I do. And then the third line is one long FFmpeg command where it takes an input of the file, and then it takes an output of it and puts it in a specific directory where I want to know what it is.
I have an FFmpeg script that is 400 lines long.
What?
And it all comes down to one line. The 400 lines before that are the ones that anticipate people not doing it right or trying to figure out what files it's working with. It's like it's a bunch of ifs and whatnot. If you give it this, then do this, then do this. And the whole point of the program is that you take a picture, like a JPEG, and you take an audio file, an MP3, a WAV, a FLAC, whatever, and you turn this thing and you feed this into the program, and what it will do is it will create a video file which is nothing more than your picture with the soundtrack. And that way you can create a card with like LibreOffice or GIMP or whatever, and then you have a card that says, this is what this is, and then you can do that, and now you can upload it to video services.
Yep.
But it was funny. It's like you said, when it actually gets down to doing the FFmpeg part, it's one line, and I may be exaggerating a bit. It might not be 400, but there's several lines of code before that, just simply figuring out what files you gave it and what error messages to give out, and the last thing it does is actually execute.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I will admit that part of the reason that script that I was talking about that's 3 lines is so small is because there's no error checking. I've not presently got it for anybody that uses it, so it's like
guy using it.
Yeah. So I just
if you're the only person using it, then you don't have to do any of that garbage. But for me, that's actually part of the fun, is trying to anticipate the error checking, and that part of it is, the actual executable code I have found out is very small, and it's the error checking that's the fun part.
Oh yeah, and I mean, error checking on anything production is a must, and you can spend so much code. I've got projects that I've dealt with that there's hundreds of lines of error checking, no question about it. So
that's all you're doing.
Yeah,
you're
not
just trying to anticipate, what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's not just for
and then
one. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say those hundreds of lines is not just for the record for one specific thing. This is a program that does a bunch of stuff that I'm talking about in this scenario, and we're error checking everything, right? Like over here, somebody can upload a file. Over here, somebody can download logs from a server, and all these. You know what I mean? So when you're doing that much stuff, you got a lot of error checking. I mean, I'd say the program, if we actually just had no error checking and was crazy, it probably would be half the size, or at least probably a quarter of it, right? Because it's just you got to anticipate. Well, what if we get this weird error from FFmpeg? We need to throw something up on the screen so the average Joe or Josephine, or even Joe Collins, everybody right here on the screen, will know. Yep, will know.
Every time I do that, you switch away.
I'm trying to switch to you, and then you stop as I switch to you.
Well, okay,
so.
here. Now switch to me.
There it is. Yeah.
Now switch away.
There we go. But anyway, so, but you can do like with FFmpeg so much, right? I mean, there's a video on YouTube. I should link this in the chat for everybody, but it's like a 5-minute video, and it's hilarious. This comedian where he's talking about FFmpeg and all this, and I tell you, everything he says, I believe is fully true about it. I haven't fact checked him, but it's hilarious anyway. And he's like, "You edit your."
It's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was the funniest part is he said, "What, you actually edit your videos in like Kden Live or DaVinci? I just edit all of mine with a really long FFmpeg command."
I've heard of people who somehow or another, I don't know how they do it, but they edit a video from the command line. And I don't know how it's done. I mean, I don't know whether that's real or not either, but it's like, come on, how do you do that? Because I don't actually use any audio, or when I make YouTube videos, I don't use any video editing at all. I just record it live, and what you see is what you get. And then sometimes I'll use the YouTube editor if something is really egregious, but that's the way I always did YouTube videos, because I hate video editing, and I never found a video editor, Linux or otherwise, that I could stand to use.
Yeah.
So that way I just get around. I mean, I do stuff like this where it's just you switch it, and whatever you get is whatever you get.
Yeah, and I mean, so, I will say there is definitely something to doing live. Like if we did this whole, we did actually. There's something to doing live though, where you don't have to spend 6 months editing it. Because I mean, I tried to do a recorded episode that was an hour long where we had a couple cameras and all this. I never finished editing it because I got tired of fighting with it. Live it's just easier.
I think it's ridiculous. I think you're trying to come up with 20 minutes of content, and then you spend 3 hours editing it and 4 hours trying to render it, and then you have to upload it.
Yeah.
I think people who do that, I mean, seriously, I think people who do that stuff are crazy. But there's a lot of YouTubers out there who are editing their stuff on their phones.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this: video editing is, I really like it, and that's a big distinction between you and me.
You can do that then. I don't like it.
Well, and I do. I mean, like the live streams are really the only thing on this channel that isn't edited, and I spend a good chunk of time in the edit for a 5-minute video. In case anybody's wondering, well, I've done a live stream where I showed it a few times. But I mean, I will spend for like a 5-minute video. I will spend like 15-20 minutes color grading it, getting the colors the way I want. I will spend about 20 minutes sound mixing it. I will spend about an hour cutting it together and being like, okay, Vincent said something stupid here. Don't need that in the video. Okay, Vincent spent 6 months talking about this. No one cares. We got to cut this out. No one's going to watch the video if it's 20 minutes long.
Get to the question.
Okay, the question. What is the question? Oh, okay. Is it possible to use nothing but free software? That was the question.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It depends on whether there are things you don't like to do or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you build your own.
I mean, how limited is your needs? But actually, to tell you the truth, you can get pretty far with just free software.
You can, and that's really good. I mean, you talk about FFmpeg, for example. A lot of the big video sharing websites are pretty open about, hey, we use that to process all the video you give us, right? So
exactly,
because it works.
That's free and open source. Yeah.
It's free, it's open source, and it works great. And I mean, it's a Swiss Army knife of things. I will say this: you could edit video with it. A while back, it's kind of a pain, but a while back I was working on the streaming service, and we want to have ad insertion. Well, you have to segment the clips at an ad break so you can do ad insertion on them. And not to bore people, I don't want to get into that. That's nobody probably cares. But the point of the matter is I have to do a cut and basically split it into pieces. Well, FFmpeg has a command where you can, a little thing you can give it and say, from this time code to this time code goes into file 1. From this time code to this time code goes into file 2. This one to this one goes to file 3. Or you could have like cuts, but you're not really editing good because you're editing blind at that point, right? Like, the only reason I know it works is because the way I'm developing it is like the creator would be like, okay, I know where I want the ads to place. Here, here, and here, and here. Here's the time code. So it's not really editing in the sense of traditional editing. It's really more of just splicing content in the middle of it and coming back to it.
To get back to the question, talking about free software, I kind of think I know where they're coming from. Is that I think you can do a lot with free software, but to be pragmatic about it, if you're going to have to participate with the rest of the internet, at some point you may have to use something that is proprietary, or even something that may not be the freest of the free. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I mean,
Um,
I think that's a valid
but that's
statement.
reality. That's just you just have to, and it depends on what you need to do. And I mean, like if you have a job where they absolutely positively insist that you use Adobe Creative Suite, I have a job like that, and there's no other way around it. I have to use a Windows machine, but it's my work Windows machine. There's nothing personal on it. It's their machine, and if I quit tomorrow, I'll put it in a box and send it back to them and not lose a damn thing because none of it's mine. And that's how I make the division. And
Yeah.
if I need to transfer a file from my personal machine to that machine, I either email it to myself, to my work account, or use a thumb drive and unplug it from one and plug it into the other. They're not even on the network talking to each other. As a matter of fact, that machine, that Windows machine, is firewalled off away from everybody else. So if you were on my network, you couldn't even see it
Yeah.
because that's how I deal with it. Yeah. So it depends on what you need to do.
Of course, and I think that's a valid statement. I mean, it's obviously going to depend. There was a guy I talked to a while back, for example, this dubbing editor. I won't say who his clients are, but I met him in a Linux server, okay, and we ended up talking. Well, this fellow that will remain nameless and his client that he's told me about will remain nameless, but let's just say it was a big studio. They say, listen, you're going to edit this in Avid. That's it. No decisions. No, you know what I mean? Like you're getting paid for the job. And so, of course, like any smart person that's getting paid for the job, when the client says, we're going to want you to do this in Python, well, okay, I'd rather do it in PHP, but guys, you think it's Python? Okay, we're doing it in Python, guys. The money's, you got to go where the money's going, right? So if they say you got to edit it in Avid, right?
Well, I mean, it's not just that. It's also you have a shop that is using customized software that's written for Windows, or you're stuck with it. There's nothing you can do about that. I mean, and people will now. You could put your Windows in virtual machine if you wanted to. If you could, that sort of thing. My way of dealing with it has always been just to keep the two worlds separate, and that's how it works for me.
I've done a bit of everything when it comes to dealing with Windows because there's certain things I need occasionally that are Windows only, and what I
Well, I'm
do.
hoping that if this, when this job goes away someday, what I'm hoping is that I will put the machine in a box and send it back to them. And then
Yeah.
I'll be done with it, because at that point, I personally will never need Windows again.
Yeah. I mean, I can get away without Windows most of the time. I mean, I use Linux and Mac OS more often than I use Windows these days, and Linux by far is probably the one I
You
touch the
use
most.
Mac OS, you're evil, evil.
I mean, I literally brought my Mac on the air with me a few days ago on Open Source Night, so I
The
don't
other
think it's
man, you're
turned
going to be
secret.
telling me that you use BSD next. Dude.
No. I like to use a little bit of everything. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Mac OS, folks. I don't particularly love everything Apple does, for the record, but I mean, like they're not the worst company in the world either, but they're not the best company in the world. Anyway, I don't want to get into that for 6 hours, but regardless, they make a good operating system. One of my friends that actually in the chat with us tonight, Trevor, he agreed with me. We're talking about this the other day. He actually said he was going to get a Mac. And I'm like, what? Because this guy's like not a fan of Apple either, right? Even less so than I am. And I'm thinking, this is strange. And he's like, well, but the operating system's so good. And I'm like, yeah, their software. That's where they. I'm just saying it. Mac OS works,
Yeah,
and
but here's the only thing. Here's the only thing about Mac. It's all about money, baby. Give me that money.
Yep.
I want that money.
Yep.
Every time you turn around, they want some money for you. It's lackluster hardware that they're charging 3 times as much as you could buy it on the open market for.
I mean,
thank you.
I mean, I have to say, like,
You have fun with that.
I have to say that their hardware is not as bad as it used to be. I really like. I've got the M1 MacBook Air. And that thing edits video faster than my Ryzen processor, just slightly, on a Linux system with DaVinci Resolve. Same program on Linux. I mean, again, like, as far as I'm concerned, my philosophy is you should use whatever you like. I use a little bit of everything, but I prefer Mac and Linux. Like, in a perfect world, if I ever had it, I just would never use Windows, not even once a year. But one of the reasons that I still use Windows is some of the software I use is only available on Mac or Windows. And if I want a desktop computer, I don't really want to spend that kind of money on a Mac. So for my desktop, I've got Linux and Windows on it. And I know, Joe, you don't like dual booting. I don't recommend it either, for the record, but I'm doing it so you don't have to.
I don't like idiots dual booting. That's been the biggest thing for years and years and years. People go, why don't you like dual booting? It's not because if you know how to do it, great.
Yeah. And I
Knock
mean,
yourself out. It's your computer. You do whatever you want to. You take the risks.
yep.
What my problem has always been is setting up a dual boot and then handing it to a novice who has no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and I
And
mean,
then they're, yeah.
I would agree with you that that's a real problem because novice users, like my
Well,
mom, she would not know how to manage a dual boot, for example. So somebody like her, you really need to put them in one side of the aisle or the other, right? Because if they have a
years and
problem,
years and years ago with Linux, and this was back in the Windows XP, Windows 7 days.
yeah,
When you would install it, it would ask you during the install process, like Ubuntu would ask you, do you want to put this alongside Windows? And it would analyze your hard drive and figure out, and then it would resize your Windows partition, make room for Linux, put Linux in it, blow out the Windows bootloader, put in grub, and then it would put Linux on.
yep,
And that was the stupidest thing that they could have possibly ever done, because you have some novice who is trying to figure out Linux, doesn't know much about computers to begin with, and now just with one or two clicks, that installer has completely modified their machine. And there's no easy way to get out of that. There never has been. Because in order to do that, you have to put in a Windows boot CD, and then you would have to rewrite the MBR, and then you would have to, what else? Where it was resize it, all this other stuff that you had to do. And Windows would go berserk because it didn't know what it was a really big mess. And that's where that came from years ago. But I still believe the best way to learn how to use Linux is to have a Linux machine and a Windows machine or a Mac. Whatever you use, you keep your system intact.
and then
Don't
you
be booting
transport.
back and forth, you know?
Yeah, and I think
Do that.
and I think for the normal users, that's what they should do. I mean, like you said, if they know how to use it, that's different. I don't know if I really
Yeah,
go as far as saying
if
that it
you're
was.
somebody who is if you're somebody who is already a power user anyway and understands what a bootloader is, how to manipulate EFI, understands how Linux boots up, understands how Windows boots up, understands how grub works. You have all of this in your head and you understand that. Knock yourself out. It's your computer. But don't hand that to somebody who doesn't understand that and then wonder why they get really pissed off when their machine bricks itself and they lose everything in Linux and Windows and then they blame Linux. That's where that came from.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I think that's a very valid statement. I mean, again, I'm somebody that understands that kind of thing where it's like,
Well,
okay,
if you
I know
break
what
it, you're
they.
going to fix it too.
And that's true, and I know how to fix it because I have broke it before, and I'm like, no big
And
deal.
you're not going to blame somebody else for it.
Yeah,
You're not going to
it's
say, oh,
it's my system.
it's
I'm the
not
one that
like,
set it up. Yep, it's my fault.
Vince gave me this computer and he messed up my world. And now I've lost all my pictures and all my music and everything, and I got to start over. And I hate Linux, and I'll never use it.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually
Vince's fault.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually tried to convert a family member to Linux years ago, but I did not. I did not do a dual boot, right? So I took your advice, right? I didn't give them something they wouldn't understand. But you know what? This must have been bad timing. I don't know if they to this day still would actually agree with me on this because they didn't at the time. But their computer, it was old, and I think what happened is it just died. They thought because I installed Linux on it, it killed it.
Oh,
Because
that
it died
yeah.
like a few hours after we installed Linux on it, and it wouldn't boot anymore. And I'm like, yeah, I think your machine, it was old. It was just, systems die every once in a while. You just got unlucky enough that it happened at the exact second that we did this.
Yeah, when I used to do installs for people, I used to tell them it's like, because people would be like, well, my machine is running really slow and it doesn't do this and it's not working. And I went, yeah, that could be a problem with Windows, but it also could be your hardware. And if your hardware is a problem, Linux won't fix that. So you have to, and I think we've all done it where we've handed somebody a machine prematurely and then they well, it died. And I'm saying, well, I'm sorry. That was that's the risk you take. And they're like, well, wah, and I always make them take a backup first, so I'd always be able to say, well, at least you got a good backup.
Yeah, and
Now
that
you can get a new machine and restore it.
and I was a kid when I did this, and I did not even think about doing a backup, and that's where we messed up because they weren't happy with me. Now the good news was that they really didn't have anything they needed on there, thankfully. But if it had went another way.
I think probably if you want to do the first one of these shows on Bash, I think the next one we need to do is backups.
Backups is a very important thing because I know that I am not the best at backups. Like I know fundamentally you got to keep everything backed up, and I do have certain things that back stuff up. But at the same time, like I keep my code back up, I keep my videos backed up. And I mean really that's the only stuff on my machine, so I guess it's fine, but like I don't do like some people like these whole hard drive backups. It's just like, well, pretty much everything.
I don't back up whole hard. I think backing up a whole hard drive for Linux is kind of silly. I do keep backups of entire home directories, which is all the personal user data on the machine. But I don't do whole hard drive. I think that's silly for Linux because reinstalling Linux it would take 3 hours to restore one of those whole hard drive backups, whereas to install the operating system and then put your programs back on and then reload the data takes an hour. It's just stupid to me. It's silly.
Well, Joe, I will say this, maybe in your scenario that happened, but I've got a system here with an SSD in it, and I did an image like that. So I have a work system here for one of my clients, and I've been building a custom Linux install for them, and I'm making images of it and then writing it back and stuff. And
it takes different. You're talking about a power. You're talking about a power user use case. We're not talking about.
Well, of course we are.
At home on the computer.
I'm not saying that normal people should do this. I'm just saying like
normal people don't need to do that.
Oh God no. But I'm just saying that from a standpoint of how long it takes to write back, for me, for a several hundred gig SSD, about 500 gig, it takes about 12 minutes to write back. So that's not really too bad.
Yeah, but that's different. Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously, that being said, I don't think there's a real need to do that for normal people. In fact, I mean, like I said, for me,
yeah, we need to sit down and really talk about that and let people ask questions because it's an
important topic.
As we get closer to it, yeah. Okay, before we wrap this up, do we have any more questions?
Let me look and see. But I will tell you, though, that for me, when it comes to bookmarks, that I am, or not bookmarks, backup, sorry. I just, like I said, back up the files I need, right? So I think home backups, for home directory backups is probably what most people need. I just, like literally, I don't need to back up my downloads directory because everything in there is stuff that I can go back and get, right? And that's like a lot of junk. It's like I needed once and then I forgot to remove it, so I don't want to keep it all. Anyway, let's look at the chat. So I do see the chat here. It is saying, okay, yeah, we got a couple of spam comments that Trevor thankfully deleted. Thank you, Trevor. He's a mod. Trevor. Yeah, thank you. And then we got Leo's phone on here saying Snapper and Time Shift. Now, I know of Time Shift, as Joe's done videos on it, and so I remember that. But what is Snapper? Could you tell us what that is? Because I'm assuming it's another backup utility. Do you know about that, Joe?
No, I don't know about that one.
Okay, well, neither do I.
But I would assume that I would assume that it would be something along the lines of Time Shift or something like that. Time Shift is not a backup utility. Time Shift is designed to back up your operating system without your home directory.
Yeah.
Now, you can set it to back up your home directory, and I guess that would be all right if your home directory was, real tiny. You didn't have a whole lot of stuff in it. But Time Shift is really meant to put those backups on the same drive as the operating system so that if your machine gets borked up, you have a way to get back.
Yeah.
It's like the restore points in Windows. But people will think, okay, well, I'll use this to back up my stuff. You're not actually backing anything up. It's on the same drive. If the hard drive fails, it's gone. You can use Time Shift and plug in a separate drive and all that stuff, but it's actually quite clunky. There's much better utilities to do that part where you back up your own personal data, and it's just you can do it that way. I don't prefer that. That's one of the reasons that I wrote the BU program was because that's what that does. This is just backs up the, I use them together. I use Time Shift in case something gets borked up, and then I use the BU for a hard drive you can plug in. Backing up anything on your computer to drives that are permanently plugged into the computer is not backing anything up at all. If your power supply dies and it fries all your hard drives,
you're in the same boat.
And your backups go away too.
Yep. And I mean, that's the thing. Backups is a problem that I think a lot of people have had trouble nicking. For me, what I do is I have an S3 style storage bucket that I just throw the files in that is private, and that's how I handle it. And then I have a local drive here that I also have copies of it on, so that way
You can
I
do it
don't have
that
to
way. I
download it.
mean, but I'm not. I like local backups that I can put my hands on because I don't
Local
necessarily
backup.
trust being able to get something off the cloud.
That's my local
Yeah,
backup right there, right? And
exactly.
so
I could go get mine and show you. I have several of them, as a matter of fact. I have one. Um, I have 1 terabyte hard drive that has a backup of everybody's home directory on this in this house, all 4 machines, and
how do you keep that separated? BU, does it put it in a separate folder? I think it does, doesn't it? Like for the computer.
BU will allow you to do as many backups on as many machines as you like on a single storage device. And I was thinking in terms of, they have these portable 4 terabyte drives now.
Yep.
And so you could go around and do a backup of every machine on the network, and you have this hard copy. See, I have a file server that's up online on the network that I also back up to. So that's the online backup. What I'm talking about is there's some kind of disaster and all of the computers get blown up at once. All right, I still have my stuff. Not only that, I have my stuff off-site somewhere. So I haven't lost anything.
Yeah,
And yeah.
yeah, I think for a lot of people, off-site could be just as simple as, hey, I've got a relative that lives 20 minutes up the road. I'm going to just take a drive and copy it and switch it every week or something,
Exactly.
right? Could be that
I'm gonna
simple.
take it to your house, and I'll hand it to you. If you have things that pictures, whatnot, that are very important to you, do that. Hand them the drive and say, and make sure that it's a spinning drive. Thumb drives, they really rely on being plugged in. Okay, over time they lose their charge, and so if you want something that's going to be really reliable, get an old spinner. Like what is it? The Western Digital Elements drives are perfect for this. They're tough as nails. You can throw them across the room. You can't break them.
I like Western Digital
And
stuff. It just works.
yeah, and they work really well for that. I've got one that I've had for years that has never given me any problem. But don't back it up on a little SanDisk 128 gigabit thumb drive and then put it up in a closet and expect it to be there in 2 years because you didn't power that drive up. SSDs rely on being powered up to maintain the data.
So you would advise that everybody back up. I mean, a hard drive probably makes sense for backup anyway because you don't need it as like really fast. And that's what this is a hard drive because, again, I need a lot of storage where I'm backing up video files, for example. I mean, they're huge.
Right.
So, for me, I would be willing to use a hard drive for backup. But if somebody wanted to use an SSD, you would advise them against it because
if
after
it's
a while,
long-term backup, if you're going to be updating it every week, okay, that's fine. If it's going to be, you're going to back it up and then you're going to put it in storage, don't use an SSD.
So, for example, if I was to say, I thought about doing this, like getting a catalog of drives, giving them a letter, putting all the videos for a certain number of months on them, and slapping it in a storage place somewhere for years, and then I need that video, I go pull it out and plug it into a reader. You would say that needs to be a hard drive because I may not use it for 5 years, right?
At this point, it's got to be a spinner. The spinning hard drives, when you write a file on it, it's guaranteed to be readable for 10 years. Whereas on an SSD, nobody really knows.
Okay. Well,
and you can look that up. That's not just me. I've done a lot of research on it. Like I said, if you're going to do SSD backups, it's fine to use an SSD for a backup as long as you know that you're going to be powering that drive up once every month or so that it can do the maintenance it needs to do to maintain the charges to hold on to the data.
I got you. Well, I'm glad that you told me that because I had thought about using SSDs for that video backup thing I was just talking about because I'm like, well, at least I could copy them a little faster, right? But I think I'm probably going to go hard drives anyway just because of the price, and I definitely don't want to have to be plugging them in every month because what I'm thinking with that setup would be they really wouldn't be probably used very much.
No, exactly.
Now,
it all depends on your backup strategy. See, my backup strategy involves constantly backing up all the time and taking a snapshot at least monthly on every machine. So it really doesn't matter what my storage device is as long as I'm relatively confident that it's going to read when I need it. And also you do it like I said, I have an online file server that has the same thing. So if the drive dies, it's no big deal. I didn't lose the files. They're over here.
Yeah.
So it's all about redundancy. Can you move it around? If you can put it on a server in the cloud, that's even better.
Yep.
Oh, I can get it up here. Okay, if everything dies, I've got it. In other words, that way you'll never lose anything as long as there's duplicates all over the place. But if you get yourself to a single point of failure where the only copy that exists is the on the drive in your computer or on your thumb drive, then guess what? You don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's the thing. You definitely got to have secondary copies. That's why I wanted to get my videos up into that S3 instance, right? I take a H.265 archive master of the camera recordings. The audio recordings go up as normal because they're pretty small from the field recorder. And then for the actual video, like the final program video, that's also uploaded. That way, if I say lose everything on my computer, we lose YouTube or something, I can go back and say, oh, we've got that video that I did 2 years ago on a drive. I can just pull it down. Honestly,
See, I've never kept any. I've never kept any videos. I put them up on YouTube, and that's my storage.
yeah. Well, the problem with
And
that
I've never
though, is,
lost. I've never lost anything on YouTube since 2008.
yeah. The only problem
So
that
that's a pretty good track record.
yeah, I mean, YouTube, I've never lost anything either, but I still just feel more comfortable at night having that extra copy in case that something goes wrong and maybe I accidentally delete it, or, there's a few other people that's got access to Open Source Tonight's account. Maybe they
Sure,
accidentally delete it, right? Yeah.
Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say this, backup video files is a pain in the rear, folks, because they're huge. I mean, that's why I have to use H.265, because if I actually use the ProRes files, I'm not kidding you, a 2 or 3 minute recording is like 5 or 6 gigs. It looks amazing, but boy, are you not going to be able to store it, in a data center cheap at that, size. And, I'm not rich. Not yet. When I'm rich, sure, we'll throw the ProRes up there. Have a copy of it. Why not? Got too much money. Need to burn it somehow, right? But until then, I don't really think it makes sense. And there's another kitty.
There's another kitty.
That looks like the one I used to have. I used to have one called Midnight that looked just like that.
No, this is Maurice.
Hi, Maurice. Welcome to the show.
He's the newest kitty. He kind of likes this. He's looking at the microphone blink. He thinks there's an LED on the microphone that's blinking. He thinks it's cool.
Oh, all right. We got him fascinated with lights, everybody. There we go. But
Any more questions?
Let's see. I don't know. I will just touch on the backup thing. For me, the only other stuff I really back up other than like video files and get stuff like for code is my my SSH keys, because I log into a bunch of servers that they are requiring my key. They won't let me log in with anything else.
I have SSH keys all over the world, Jack.
Yep. And so do I. I love SSH keys.
Never lose my SSH keys.
If I lost mine, I would be locked out of everything. And I had a situation a while back where I actually had a drive where somehow I ended up losing my key. Luckily, the few things that I was connecting to, other people had access to, and I just said, here's the new key. Can you just move it in there for me? And they did. Mm-hmm. But, you don't always get that. Let's look at the chat. So the chat's up next to Joe Collins, everybody. Joe Collins. Trevor Warren says, hello, kitty. Okay. So a small SSD and 2 spinning drives. Leo's phone. So I'm assuming that's referring to Joe and his talking about backup stuff. And then there's BTFS backup. BTFS, I know very little about. I know of it. I feel like Joe is probably the expert. Are you the expert, Joe, on BTFS, or?
Yeah, but what you're talking about is a snapshot within its own file system on the same drive. It's not a backup. All it is a way to roll back. It's
like a snapshot on a VM. Is that what it is?
You can't. Okay. What you can do, it's like with ButterFS and XFS. Not XFS, excuse me. What is the other one?
ZFS, I think you're thinking of?
Tell me, ZFS. With those operating systems, what you can do is with those file systems, for those who don't know, you can set a snap point. And what it will do is that it will keep all the data as of right now. You can add to it, you can change it as it goes down the road. And it's constantly creating deltas from this point, okay, of everything that changes. And then at any point in time, if you gorny something up, you can tell this, okay, dump everything after this point and take me back to where it is. This is all happening on the same file system on the same drive. Very useful and very cool. But the performance sucks, and you can't think of that as a long-term backup because, like I said, we're relying on this device. And even if that device is a RAID device in a server, you're still relying on a device to keep this exact image. You really need redundancy.
You're still putting all your eggs in one
Yeah,
basket.
you're
It's
putting your
just,
eggs in one basket, very much so.
yeah.
And but yeah, no, ButterFS ain't there yet, folks. I mean, I know there's people out there that say, "Oh, I use it and I love it and whatever," but if you want to talk about file systems in Linux, I am an ext4 fan till the end of time, and I have my reasons for that.
And
It has. Go on.
I was just gonna say I was gonna agree with you on that because when I've tried ZFS before on it, I had a lot of issues, and I like ZFS, but I think if you need something like that, you should go BSD. That's pretty much what I think on it.
Well, I mean,
Anyway,
not even BSD. I mean, you need to have the hardware that can handle it. I don't think that that's for a desktop. I don't think that that's something that you would
it's
certainly
not.
wouldn't
It's
use
a server thing, right?
yeah,
That's like
for
file
a laptop.
storage.
And I think the most stable file storage system that we have in Linux right now, as far as a simple uh, file system, is ext4. And ext4 has some, it uses a bitmap for addressing. I know that, and so does XFS and all this other stuff. ext4 with journaling turned on can fix itself, and I have never, ever, ever lost any major data with ext4. I have with XFS, I have with ZFS, I have with ButterFS, I've had with LVMs with XFS and ButterFS and even ext4. But if you're talking about just formatting a naked device with partitions, you use old ext4, man, that stuff is stable.
Indeed, XF, ETX, we're live. EXT4 is very stable, and I mean, really, to me, ZFS. The only reason I would use it would have to be on a server, but I have had plans to build a file server here locally to store video files so I can edit off of them and stuff. I mean, it's a long-term plan, but I've been debating on how I want to do it. And it's like EXT4 or ZFS. It's really one or the other. That's what it's going to be. And if it
Well, I mean, it depends. If you want to take the time to fool around with ZFS
I
and learn
don't.
that command set
I honestly
and play
don't.
with it, then you go right ahead.
Well, see, I don't though. Like, I mean, like it would be fun maybe to play with, but like, really, this server would be getting work done, right? The whole point is I'm throwing you a bunch of video files, and I'll ask for them back later. Whenever I need them.
I might suggest, depending on the server, that you might consider using XFS, because XFS is somewhat better performance-wise when dealing with very large files. But we're really splitting hairs on this. Because XFS is actually multi-threaded. It can be reading multiple parts of a file at a time, whereas I do not believe that ext4 has the ability to do that. ext4 is you call it and it reads it one cluster at a time until it gets it. With large video file, you could actually be reading the head to make a change over here and then reading the tail to add something to it, and it can be doing it simultaneously as long as the hardware is fast enough to be able to do that.
Okay, that sounds like something that would be use case.
The downside to XFS is that it is not a full journaling file system. XFS only journals metadata. So you can have situations where it thinks a file is there and it isn't. So you have problems. But those are very remote. Believe me, there are a lot of servers out there using XFS right now.
Oh yeah, I will say
but you have to have yourself on a UPS, and you have to understand your power down procedures.
Yeah.
Whereas ext4 doesn't care.
Yeah.
ext4 is like, what? You didn't shut it down properly? Hold on, let me check and see if you screwed anything. No, it's all right. I fixed it. Thanks.
Yep.
That's the way it is.
And I mean, I will say this: I've got stuff like that. I always put it on a UPS. So you're saying if it's on a UPS and you're not stupid and don't say, "Well, I'm just gonna pull the power cable when I need to shut the server down," you're gonna actually like go in and SSH in and say, halt or whatever you want to do, power down, etc. That should be fine. You don't really think it's...
Like I said, I played around with this a long time ago, years ago, and when Ubuntu was shipping with ZFS as a default. For a while, you could just click it and it would do that. And I played around with those, and I just went, there's really, for what I do with a computer, this is not going to help me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, I can see certain people in certain situations, yes, being a big deal, but not. I don't know. It's just it's for me. It's buying trouble.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the only use case I ever would have for it is, like I said, that server, because for one thing, I would like to use it as a backup. So I want something that I know ZFS has got some features in it that is supposed to check to make sure the files are intact, and that's something that I would
Yeah, it looks
want,
for
right?
bitrot.
Yeah, it looks for
It looks
bitrot.
for bitrot.
And I mean, that's something, again, I may not access a file for 2 years, but when I need that file, I want to know it's there. And if it's not, I want to know that immediately so I can say, okay, I get it in the S3, which is not actually Amazon S3. I use DigitalOcean's, but it uses the same API. Anyway, but being able to just pull it down from the bucket, right, and say, okay, well, I've got it and put it back on there. But, what if for some reason that I didn't notice that, that could be a problem. And I mean, our internet goes out here sometimes. I'm editing videos and the internet's out sometimes. So it's like, that would be one reason I like to have it, is so I could say, oh, internet's down. I need to reference a video from 2 years ago where I said this. Go grab the video file, But if if it's bit rotted and the internet's out, I mean, I know it's kind of an edge case scenario, but a lot of the stuff we've been talking about is edge case scenarios. Well, this very specific edge case, you might be able to get the video to write just a tiny bit faster, right? I mean, that's kind of, we're in edge case territory anyway.
Well, see if there's any more questions, then we'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I think we're probably getting to that stage where there's not going to be much more questions. Let me look and see before I say that, but let me switch off of you. So I've got you on the actual same place that the chat is. Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, so the next time we do this, I will have a dedicated video feed that's just Joe Collins, so we don't have to worry about this. Let's see.
Certainly hope so.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the chat, everybody. There we go. I'll even full screen it and pretend I know what I'm doing. Remember the days of hybrid drives? Oh, we were talking drives. It would come to mind. Okay, so yeah, the hybrid drives, that's like, I don't know if you're referring, Leo, to the ones that where it's like an SSD part of it and also part of it like a spinner.
I know what he's talking about, a hybrid, yeah.
Okay.
What about it? What does he want to know?
He was just saying that what we were talking about made him think about it. So, basically just saying, hey, that's an interesting thing that you made me remember.
A hybrid drive, I tried one a long time ago, and it was a really bummer experience. I didn't find it to be particularly fast, and the other thing that happened is that it burned up after about 2 years. It seemed to slow down and down and down and down, and there wasn't really any way to, they tell you how that works, and it's like it tries to figure out what files you go after, and then it caches them in the SSD section and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. There wasn't any way to see that in action. There wasn't any way to control it, and it just blew up after about 3-4 years. And I just said, "Well, that was interesting," and I gave up. And no, it wasn't even that much. It was like 2 years. It was a Seagate, which was part of the problem anyway. I bought a Seagate.
I mean, I don't really. Can we get sued? Can the lawyers tell me in my ear real quick?
No, we can bash Seagate all day and all night if we want to. They suck.
I mean, I didn't say that.
I said it.
Okay, folks, if your name's Seagate, you can sue Joe Collins. I'll just leave me out of it.
For what? For expressing my opinion that they make crappy hard drives that blow up after 2 or 3 years?
I mean, you
Western
said it.
Digital, Toshiba, great, no problem. There's several makers out there. Don't buy a Seagate.
I mean, let's just say this. Pretend Joe said none of that. Just buy Western Digital. There. I don't think we're going to get sued for giving a free promo to Western Digital. And I mean, I love Western Digital. I got one here. I got 2 in my computer over there. I've got one up in a computer up there. I've got one down in the house.
I've been doing this so long. I remember dealing with Mac Store drives. And they were horrible.
I do not remember those. So that's something that
you don't remember Mac Store. Okay.
I know of them because, I'm into old computers and junk. But as far as oh yeah, I've installed one of those, in production on, when they were being sold brand new. And so, no, I've never done that, thankfully.
All right, folks. I mean, if you're done, I'm done.
Yeah, I was about to end it. So, folks, I think that me and Joe's on the same page here. I think it's time we end the show. We've been on the air for an hour and 34 minutes. I think you all probably are sick of us by now, but I do thank the few people that tune in to watch. Joe, do you want to do a show this Friday? If you do, we'll promo it right now before we go. All right, folks, tune in this Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That is 2 a.m. UTC. And insert your other time zone here. You should be able to convert from UTC back. I'm not good at time zones.
Okay, now look for what's your YouTube channel called?
It's called Open Source Tonight. You should be on it right
You're
now.
Open Source Tonight. If you want to find me, if you don't know who I am,
This is
and
Joe
I'm sure you
Collins.
don't,
Yep.
you can find my YouTube channel. It's just do a search for Joe Collins Linux, and it will take you directly to my channel. I would give you my webpage, but I think I'm going to spin that down in the next month or two. So just look at the YouTube videos if you need really bored and have nothing else to do. Oh my goodness. Yay!
My mic was off. I've been watching Joe Collins' videos for a very long time. This is his channel. It'd help if I had my mic
Stop
on.
turning your mic off, dude.
Well, cars and stuff drive by, and I didn't want it in the audio. So anyway,
Who cares?
that's You're very relaxed about that. I want people to hear the best sound
Life
possible.
is surface noise.
True, but yeah, he's got some great videos here, and I usually don't watch his channel on this account, but I did watch a couple. You can see I watched JC's Linux notes. That was a good video. Go check that one out right now. There, I give you a free plug, right? That's
Yeah,
always
right. I got 2 extra views. Thanks.
Wait, it's gonna be 2? I'm 2.
Well, there's 4 people watching, and you might think, I'm being generous and saying half of them would go click.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, everybody, but we'll be doing a show this Friday, 8 o'clock, like I said, Eastern Time, 2 a.m. UTC. And
Get off the computer.
And just so everybody knows, Joe's cat's here. Just so everybody knows.
He was on the keyboard.
Yep. But just so everybody knows, what I'm going to do for every week's episode, there'll be a scheduled live stream, so you can just go ahead and look for that. And also follow the community tab. If for some reason we had to postpone an episode, that's the way I normally do postponements, is I'll just throw a thing in the community tab. So that way you all will know if we end up canceling the show. But everybody, thanks for watching.
Friday night
Check
at 8,
out.
we're talking about Bash.
Yeah, we're talking about Bash. So bring your Bash questions. We'll answer a few of them at the end of the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching Open Source Tonight. This is Vincent signing off.